Now we're going to switch over into our other sorely missed show, Parks and Recreation. Not many great shows have great endings. Not many great anythings have great endings. Not
Yeah.
only did Parks and Recreation have one of my favorite final seasons of a show in general, I think it has one of my favorite endings to a show in general now.
Mm-hmm.
The show has been with me for a while. I was not doing so well at a point in my life, and I was watching this show, and it kind of helped me out. And it's just a little sappy, but it's true. It made me a little happier and kind of inspiring in a way to help me be better and do better.
Yeah.
But as a show, as a comedy, nowadays a lot of shows aim for like the mean spirited stuff, like haha, fat man fall downstairs or something like that, and like
Yeah.
that's not funny to me. I like some positive energy now and then. Maybe that's why I like The Flash so much more than Arrow. But I love that it's a show built entirely on healthy relationships and community and just good natured stuff in general. Like, yeah, you lose sometimes, but you can make a win out of anything almost. There's always a positive. There's a silver lining. Every cloud's a silver lining type of thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I got that phrase right, but enough about my gushing about it. What did you think about Parks and Recreation as a whole?
It was such a crazy ride for me too. Like when you say that show came into your life at a really difficult and sensitive time, it was the exact same way for me. I started watching it. I think it was either halfway through or towards the end of my undergrad degree time, and I was really struggling with my like kind of depression and just a lot of like facing true adult life. And I was really in the place where April was towards the end of the show. Like, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? And those things were so like overwhelmingly relevant to my life. There was a couple. I binged watched the earlier seasons like nobody's business, and there was a couple seasons in there where I cried like during every single episode at some point. I mean, like they're all great and had their fun moments, and then there's always something. Oh man, this is actually getting me really emotional. But like just to, like you said, there's this really healthy community, and they fight and they struggle, but more than anything, they love each other. And I think that love and that positivity was something that was kind of like, there is a temptation to compare the show to like The Office because it's that same mockumentary style. And I think I do still make those comparisons in my mind because the aesthetic is very similar. Um, like there's such an earnestness and positivity that I felt with Parks and Rec that kind of became more lacking in the later seasons of The Office, for example. And it's definitely one of my all-time favorite shows. I watch a lot of dark stuff. I watch frickin' Hannibal and Bates Motel, Dexter. It's all like serial killers for me. And then there's Parks and Rec, and that's just I'll be talking about the shows that I watch, and people are like, "Oh, okay, so here's one example of you actually being a normal human being." The rest of your resume, well, let's not talk about that. But yeah, so that there's just such a warmth and earnestness, and every single episode, I just like the characters felt like my friends. Like you get to know everyone so well and all of their dynamics. And what we got to see with the last season especially was everybody kind of coming together, and yet at the same time moving apart and growing. And I love that the show let the characters grow, and it was hard because I, like Ron Swanson, am very resistant to change, but that was the perfect way to get to see everything that has transpired in the show like come to a good place. Families are started and careers and freaking everything. It was such a ride. Like I don't feel like it's over, even though the finale was like incredibly conclusive. Like, this is where everyone goes, so there you have it. And yet but then it kept bouncing back to the present, you know. We would see what was happening in this present time, and then like it would sort of be like, okay, here's those two. Now let's look at where they go in 20 years. And it was quite a trip.
Yeah, man, that I knew I was gonna love this show or love the final season too, like a lot. If the finale dropped the ball hard, I would have forgiven it because of everything else that I feel it's done so well, but it didn't. It kind of elevated itself even more into a higher plane where most shows don't get to with excellent finales. And the fact that every time Leslie said goodbye to someone, she would pat them on the shoulder or something, and they would transition to that person's life in the future. I love that visual representation of how she literally touched all of their lives in such a meaningful way that it impacts their future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot about this show, all positive, by the way. I'm getting emotional now too.
What are we doing?
I'm just going to cry about the show some more. Well, I pretty much had a big old lump in my throat when I was watching the finale yesterday. I made a stack of 4 waffles with syrup. I was out of whipped cream. Leslie Knope would have been supremely disappointed in me. But I ate every single waffle for Leslie and the Parks Department. And it's hard to swallow food when you have a big lump of cry in your throat.
It's so true. I was watching it by myself last night, and my cat came into the room, and she was sitting there like watching me, and I'm just in shambles, and and she slowly walked up to me and like put her paw on my knee, and I was just like, yeah, ending. And so then my cat was there to keep me company. So.
Oh, well, that's nice. My cat was nowhere to be seen.
Oh.
So my cat sucks.
Rude.
I think out of everything that's happened, I mean, I can't choose a particular favorite character or anything like that, but a moment that really stands out for me is actually in the penultimate episode when Gary becomes mayor. I still screw up his name. It happens in real life too. He becomes mayor, and everyone kind of embraces him with the role, and they give him this whole like welcoming committee, and they send him off in a little balloon, and he's like, "I'm flying." I'm like, "Wow, that's really nice," because they've been so mean to Jerry sometimes, you know. Like he gets a little happy ending, and then he gets an even happier ending because he gets to stay mayor until he dies.
I know, until he's freaking 100 years old, and then he just moves on, flies away. It was really beautiful because, like, I like the way that Jerry Gary's story went, because even though he was the butt of literally everything that any character said ever, it was like it never really felt demeaning, because of course he's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, but I like to see it as him just being willing to see like the good in everything, as cheesy as that is. Like, he's just like, he will take anything that is said about him, any like opportunity to connect with somebody, and it's just like, oh, that's so nice. And and so when he reflects on his life and he's like, I've had the best life ever, you can sit there and be like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Awesome life. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was pretty much done. It was just very, very gratifying to see, and you feel so ridiculously happy for him, and like,
just a bunch of good feelings everywhere. I think that stems also from the positivity the whole show carries over that we were talking about. Like, every character, and what you're talking about, every character grows over time. A lot of shows are obsessed with like keeping a status quo. It's why I can't get into shows like Supernatural, because at the end of the season or the next season, it's always the same people, just a new problem. They never grow. Parks and Rec, characters left. Well, nobody died, But
Yeah.
little Sebastian died.
Little Sebastian died.
Sebastian died. That's right. And they grew both into Pawnee and out of Pawnee. Like Chris and Ben found a home. Chris is going to come back with Anne to Pawnee. I believe that's what's happening in the finale, unless I misheard something.
Yeah. Actually, I think he mentioned really briefly that, like, oh, Ann Arbor is great, but we're actually going to come back here. So, like, just sort of, offhandedly after everybody's been gone everywhere else, and then some people actually return to be there.
It's their home. And then Ann Perkins, their beautiful musk ox starfish lady, returns, and Leslie's reaction is pretty much what I had too. I was like, Anne's here. Anne's here. Anne's here. Yeah, Ann Perkins. April and Andy, I love how they grow. 'Cause April has that, like, I think the demeanor a lot of people think millennials have about, like, lazy and, like, unambitious, but then she secretly is really ambitious, and she has a lot of good ideas, and she grows as a character too, but she maintains the personality of who she is, and so does Andy. He becomes a successful TV host, which is totally weird, but totally made sense for his character at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Johnny Karate might be my favorite episode of any comedy. I need to reflect on that. Don't hold me to that.
I know, because they did that entire episode like it was just an episode of Johnny Karate that we got to witness and see everyone be a part of.
Yeah.
And I think what I most loved about the final season was getting to see how everyone became a part of everyone else's life and how they were always interconnected no matter where they were. Like even when they would pop into those little future segments, like you would see everybody's like attending some event that the other person is like leading, like it was so cool to see how crazy supportive this Pawnee family is, whether they're there or abroad or Skyping in or chilling out in the old office, like it's all about having everyone together, and we got to see that physically and emotionally, and it just all like the good feels thrived.
I'm gonna rewatch this show until I'm 100 like Jerry. I know it. I absolutely know it. Oh, okay. So final thoughts on this little wonderful show. I mean, what else is there left to say for me? I adore it with every fiber of my being. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I will always be thankful for Parks and Recreation. I love the cast, I love the characters. I wish them all the best in the world, and yeah, that was a hell of a finale.
It was indeed, and they pulled it off. Like, I was really concerned when I didn't actually know going into the last season that it was going to be half as long as all the others.
Oh, no.
And so I was like, I was trucking right along, marathoning like always, and then I found out that there was like 4 episodes left, and I was like,
oh, that must have been brutal.
And so I had that brief cataclysmic breakdown, and then I tried to accept it. And I think what I'm going to do now, I got a Hulu account, actually for the sole purpose of catching up on Parks and Rec after they get nice episodes on Netflix. So I did that, and now I still have it. I think I'm going to go back and watch like the director's cut episodes, because they had certain episodes where there was like 40-minute long versions instead of 20 minutes. So I think
that's right. Yeah. Sometimes I caught those. I usually ended up missing them though on Hulu.
No.
Dude, I need a Hulu account now.
Mm-hmm. It's worth it. It's worth it. I pretty much did it for Parks and Rec, and then Brooklyn Nine-Nine actually.
That is another show I need to catch up on. We should probably talk about that once the season's over too.
That'll be a good one. Yes, I love that show too. But Parks and Rec is like, it's in my soul. It's part of who I am.
It's embedded in my DNA now. It is hands down my number one comedy, like ever. I don't think it was perfect at first. It kind of had to grow into what it would become, but unintentionally, that kind of makes sense with the show. You got to stumble before you can learn to walk, and then you run, and then you fly like 5,000 candles in the wind. And
they all had to, fall into the pit, and then fill the pit, and then build.
Exactly. We all have our own little pit. Parks and Rec's pit was its pit. So there you go.
Yes, perfect.
Anything else you'd like to add about Parks and Rec?
I could go on for days and weeks and months. I could make a few Leslie-sized binders with all the reasons that I love the show. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna keep rewatching. I'm gonna keep reprocessing, re-enjoying, because that's just the kind of show that it is. It never gets old because there's so many dimensions of it to appreciate. And, you know, just like they became each other's family, we kind of became their family too.
You're gonna make me cry, so I better end this. Where can the folks find you on the Twitters and the YouTubes?
Yes, when we've stabilized.
Okay. All right. Where can they find you on the Twitters and the YouTube?
Oh, yes. So you can find me on Twitter at Emily Sophia Smith. And then my YouTube is M Mighty Sophia. That is EM, the word mighty, and it ends with Sophia. And I do lots of reviews and music and stuff there, and it's a great time. So.
All right. I can't watch your Walking Dead reviews because I need to catch up on that show. But you can find me. Well, I'll just put all the links down in the doobity-doo of the video. And thanks for watching / listening, guys. Podcast versions down below. And I'm going to miss Parks and Rec. All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.